Six Gun Productions. New media, new rules.
Attention. Emergency Linux Outlaws convened.
This is Geek News Radio, broadcast 73. For Monday, November 5th, 2018. The Raleigh Screwjob.
You're listening to Geek News Radio, episode 73. I'm Fab in Hamburg.
And I'm Dave in Birmingham. No, wait, no, I'm not. I'm Dan from Liverpool.
You sound different.
Yeah.
Wow.
I've got
Holy
a cold.
Shit.
It's still Dave. I've got a cold, and it's giving me a Scouse accent. Yeah.
Finally, you have an accent, Dave. You never had that Wales accent.
It kind of works as well because obviously the Dave Lister side of it, I can do that. So.
Yeah, it's
everyone is dead, Dave. Dave, everyone is dead. What? So Hollister's dead? Yes, Dave. Everyone is dead. Right.
You have to do your best to get into a millennial mindset now.
Right, okay.
To replace Dave on this. So yes, everybody, this is surprising, but I guess Dan's doing podcasts again, so I asked him to be on the show. Mm-hmm. You have been requested over the last how long has it been going? 3 years.
Wow.
Many people have requested you come on the show, and I've always said he'll be on the show. I'll just
I like to keep you waiting. You've got to keep them waiting.
Like the real stars,
Yeah, I did insist. It's because I insisted on that rider that you sent over. And there's a full makeup team here, even though this is audio, and lighting and everything, and a crew, and a craft service, and everything else. And I'll be in my trailer.
Are you doing the show in a Ric Flair costume? I just need to know.
Yeah, in a dressing gown, just ready to go.
My God, I've been following him on Instagram, and he keeps posting those pictures of him in the 80s.
Yeah, he was great back in the day. I remember watching him quite a lot. So it's almost an emergency Linux Outlaws. That's what people asked for.
Yeah,
considering stuff.
People asked for specifically that on Twitter with good reason because so the thing we're going to talk about. I wanted to get Dan on because you've been to the Open Source Summit and I wanted to talk to you about that. And then IBM bought Red Hat.
The next day, I think, after the summit, or very soon after.
So we had to spring into action and come back.
Fab had to get the old rotary phone out, like the bat phone. It's under a glass thing that you have to pull up, and it lights up and that, and then it's been quite an eventful. An eventful week for the Linux world. So yeah, I went to Edinburgh last week.
Before we get into that, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
Very
more
important.
on that in a moment.
What are we drinking?
I'm drinking Taifu tea, although other teas are available at the moment.
Taifu? I've never heard of that.
You only get an U with Taifu. Again, other teas are available.
I am also drinking tea. It's very disappointing here, but I have to get up very early tomorrow morning because Katie's flying to the US. And I'm drinking copper, which I believe is a British.
Oh, I don't know that one. Oh, that's a very British phrase.
At least they tell us over here that it's British tea. You never know.
You see, last time I had cheap German Pilsner for export only. You've probably got cheap British tea for export only.
Pretty much.
That's quite possible. We only export the stuff we don't want.
Although the one I have here is like in a tea bag with a string, which is like the way they do it in Germany, right? But then I bought other stuff from them, and they're like in these, like in the UK you get tea in these foil packets.
Yeah.
And then there's these just like loose tea bags without a string or anything. And you never get that in Germany. So either there are actually.
There is the string.
There
is no string in this tea
how do
bag?
I get it out? I burn my fingers every time.
That's a good point.
So I think they're either actually from the UK or they have perfected the fake UK-ness.
I know they might be from the UK. Well, my tea came in a foil bag, foil thingy without any So what I did, you're right that how'd you get it out? I had to use a spoon I could have stuck my finger in, but it was red hot, so I decided to go for a spoon. That's I see what you mean. Actually, it's adding to the amount of washing up afterwards. There is that.
It's also like we're just not used to that in Germany. We always have the little string, with the tag.
Yeah, yeah.
It has a tag, so you know what tea it is.
It's very practical. I've got to say, Twinings do that, and they're a British company,
Yeah.
as advertised by Stephen
I
Fry.
always thought they're called Twinnings.
Oh, I don't know. I only know it because on the advert. I would have said Twinings as well, but Stephen Fry does the adverts, and he says Twinings.
Well,
so I'm not going to argue with him.
Stephen Fry says that is right. Also, I think I've heard it called that when I went to the UK. But it's one of these things where you just like when you just like you learn the language and you just from hearing stuff and you haven't heard that word, but you've heard similar words. You'd think it'd be Twinings.
Yeah, we have some odd ones. So yeah, funnily enough, speaking of Edinburgh, for example, a lot of people can't pronounce that because it's a really weird spelled word.
When I heard that, and I've been to Australia before, that was like natural for me. But I always thought that's a very Australian thing of saying Australian way of saying that.
Yeah,
like,
although
Edinburgh.
Although you do know that Australia was largely settled by the Scots, so it's more likely that the Australian way is the Scottish way. Just saying.
I know. just saying.
But any Australian listeners have now turned off in disgust.
The OG
Flaming
Scots.
hell. Flaming hell, mate, you big galah. Struth.
What are you doing? Anyway, speaking of Edinburgh, before we get into that, just very quickly, we have now, so Dave actually, on the last show, Dave suggested, so I was talking about GitLab and using that, and he'd suggested we should have the show notes there, and then people can submit like issues and
good idea.
Pull requests or whatever. So I'm doing that now, so that everybody knows. And one thing I forgot last show as well, we are on Spotify, so you can listen to us on Spotify for all the freedom-hating people out there like me.
Yeah.
Yes. But let's talk about the freedom. So, how did this come about? You're going to Edinburgh.
Edinburgh, as the Americans like to say.
Edinburgh.
I say Edinburgh because that's the way they say it. But anyway,
it sounds like you're spitting at the end. It's like
you kind of have to a little bit, yeah. Although it's not quite as bad as Welsh. Again, hello to the Welsh listeners.
Hello, Dave.
Yeah. So how did I end up going? Well, a friend of mine was going, and he said, "Oh, you should come to this thing in Edinburgh." And I was like, "Oh, I don't really think I can go to that." Because the thing about one of the big things that people talk about with the Linux Foundation events, particularly, is that they tend to cost quite a bit of money to go to.
Yeah, that's what I thought. They're like.
Yeah, really so it's it's an interesting one. I had that discussion with a few people while I was there, and strangely, so if you look at the standard ticket, it's like $800, which is a lot of money for a 3-day conference.
Yeah.
But then I don't know who actually pays that, because they also have an academic ticket, which is $200, which a friend of mine got, actually was there from Edinburgh University, and he got his university paid for it, but also they only paid the $200. And then other people I know just went for free, which is unsurprisingly what I did. I basically emailed the PR guy, and so my friend said to me, let's get back to the story. So I said, I don't think I can go, it'd be too expensive. And then my friend said, why don't you just email them and tell them you're on Floss Weekly and they'll probably just let you go. And I was like, I don't think that'll work, but I'll give it a go. So I emailed the guy, just long email, just saying who I was and what I did and stuff, and put in links to things like Floss Weekly and mentioned Linux Outlaws and stuff like that.
Don't you know me from Linux Outlaws?
Yeah, so then he basically emailed straight back and went, yeah, no problem, and then that was it was done. And it was like, I didn't really need to convince him that much. It was just like a very short reply going, yeah, great, sounds good, have a press pass. And I was like, brilliant.
Know that you say that is how a lot of these things are, though, right? Yeah, so these tickets are like for the company, where the companies goes, whatever.
Yeah, I think the companies pay them $800. I think the likes of Dell and people like that who were there, would pay
also,
that.
Like, your company, like your if your conference is like for that audience, you need to kind of have that money, because if your tickets are like $80, it'll be harder like to convince your boss to go. Like somebody in control.
It's weird, that, isn't it? Yeah.
What kind of conference is this? This is just $80. That must be a scam.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, a lot of people, we used to get that with OggCamp a lot because people would say, I can't get my company to pay for travel expenses. And I'd be like, well, what are you talking about? And they'd say, because it's a free conference, they don't think it's a serious thing. And I'd be like, well, have they heard of FOSDEM? I mean, that's a free conference, but it's fairly serious. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But yeah, so I went, and then I even got a friend. So one of the lads I've been working with on this, I'm working now. Somehow I've been sucked into.
You should talk about that. Yeah, should talk about that as well.
Yeah, okay. So I'm working on an open source, open hardware, open software video streaming platform solution.
What's it called?
MakeSpaceLive. So if you go to MakeSpace.live, that's where the holding page is, and it takes you through to our GitHub, which has been populated with a lot of documentation and other stuff at the moment. And again, if anyone listening is into, although we're talking
you made that website, didn't you?
I did.
It talks about brownie points.
I did make that website, yeah. So it's definitely got my sense of humor on it. But basically, yeah, what happened was we were streaming an event. Well, there was an event going on in London called the Festival of Maintenance, which is some friends of ours were running. And we were supposed to be streaming it here in Liverpool. And I went along to help out with the streaming and was talking to two of the guys there. And they were using... what's the name? Open OBS project, Open Broadcast Studio, whatever. Which is really cool, and I've used that quite a lot. So I was saying, it looks good. But we're having trouble with the other end. Basically, we were having problems anyway with some of the stuff coming back from the other end. And then I said to them, years ago, I made an Icecast streaming solution with my Pi, which I used to use for Linux Outlaws, and they were like, "Oh, we could do that for video." And I said, "Well, you just need a USB webcam, stick it into a Pi." And then you're done. And then that
a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, Raspberry Pi.
Not just any old Pi.
Steak and kidney Pi. And then so Raspberry Pi, and they were like, "Oh, we should do that." And then one of the other guys who was there is a really he's an embedded Linux guru. Really, there's no other way to put it. He's been doing embedded Linux since like the mid '90s. So that's fairly hardcore. And he's got a company. He does consulting. He does a lot of embedded Linux stuff for industry and stuff. And he's part of he's on the Yocto project board, and he's very funny enough, I was going to say embedded. He's very embedded in that community. So Alex, who's one of the other guys on the project, and so anyway, the three of us and another lad, Matt.
You should do a podcast about embedded Linux. You could call it the Embedded Reporter.
Yeah, that's quite good actually. I like that. We discussed doing one called Fireside Embedded Linux, which is like where we sit in front of a big roaring fire with like brandies and just discuss like embedded Linux, like two old, I don't know, posh Brit guys. So they're all based in Liverpool as well. So three Scousers causing trouble. So anyway, all that's blown up into this big thing. So now he's built all the images, so you can put it straight onto a Pi 3, or you can put it straight onto a Pi 0, and we use the actual camera modules on them to test those out, and they're surprisingly good. So we hooked it all up through. I built a Nginx server. I compiled a custom version of an Nginx server with a RTMP module. This is very getting technical now, so this audience is probably the right one. So I compiled that, and that then forwards. So we stream to that from the various Pis, and then that forwards the stream to Restream.io, which we were using to distribute it to various different platforms. And it all amazingly just kind of worked really well. I mean, we're like, blimey, this is pretty good. So then, because the three of us are all kind of very, open source, free software kind of guys, we were like, well, we want to make it all, like all the designs and everything. So we've got 3D printed. Yeah, we've even got for the Pi Zeros. If you get a Pi Zero and a camera module, we've got a 3D printed case that you can. The designs are all on there, and you can 3D print them yourself, and we've done some ourselves, and they got little feet on them, and you can just make these cameras. You flash the thing, it's really quick, and then you add. It's really cool. He's done a really nice job on it, actually. Alex has done the embedded Linux side of it, and so it's really cool. With the Pi Zero, for example, if you go to a venue and it hasn't got the Wi-Fi connection for the venue, it goes into AP mode, and then you connect to it like a Chromecast. You connect to it with your phone, you connect to the access point, and then you can type in the SSID. You can select the SSID and then type in the password and save it, and then it reboots, and then it's good to go. And this is all stuff he's added, which is quite impressive. So yeah, anyway, the long and short of it is, the idea is we want people to be. I'm doing the server side as well, so I'm building a platform for it now with Django and other things that we're going to use to hopefully build like a community site where people can share their video and collaborate on things wherever they are. And that's the idea, basically. And we had a few people ask, it's quite funny. We had someone even today, someone was talking to me about how much money you could make out of it. And I was like, well, we're just giving it away. And they were like, well, why would you give it away? You should sell it for, huge amounts of money. And I was like, because we just kind of want to give it away. And they were like, that sounds very subversive. And I was like, well, we are pretty subversive, actually. So me and
Disruptive.
so me and the others, we all agree on this anyway. So it's currently being built at the
community
moment.
with community tools.
It's basically communitizing the community, with video, essentially. But we want people to be able to just get the stuff. You can build the camera. We're going to build we started with the Pi because it's the most obvious. Pi 0 and the Pi 3, I think we were using. But we've got a couple of Pi 3s with USB webcams, and they work really well. So we want people to be able to just set up really cheaply and easily, like 3 or 4 cameras in there, say MakeSpace or Event, whatever they're doing, and then stream it to this platform and then share the video and do stuff with it. So that's the idea.
I do believe this is exactly how Apple got started. Was built something, and then Steve Jobs came and was like, you should sell that to somebody. It was like, I would just want to give it away. Like, why would you want to give that away?
Yeah, I think in this, weirdly though, we've got like 3 Wozniaks in our group, so we're all right on that. Although that's got its own challenges. But no, it's good. So we're doing that, and then we're using Proxmox as well, which is one of my favorite things. Which is it's German actually, so you'll be able to approve that. It's German Debian-based distribution. Yeah, it does KVM.
Isn't that a router thing usually?
No, that's something else. So Proxmox is a Debian-based hypervisor, basically. Solution.
Oh, it's the hypervisor. Yes. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, and you install it. So I use it on my home server. I've got a little home lab server that I use for everything, and I do everything on that, but virtualize it in KVM on top of Proxmox. And Proxmox is just Debian, essentially, which everything is these days. Although more on that later. And then, so I do stuff with that. But we've built I've built an appliance for the web server side of it that we could maybe distribute to people. But we're still working on it. So the big problem at the moment is that RTMP is crap for latency. And it's really old, and we didn't really want to use it, but it was just the solution that we had. So we're looking at WebRTC, which is the cool hotness that everybody's into right now because it's got like 0 latency almost. So we're looking at that. So yeah, it's all developing, but that's all kind of in the last month. That's all kind of snowballed into this massive thing, which is kind of taken off, and loads of people want it, and they're like, "Oh, when can we put this in? Our buildings?" And I'm like, "Well, let us finish making it first." But yeah, so that's all taken off. But the reason that links in is because I mentioned that in my email, and then Matt, who's one of the other lads who's working on the project, I said to him, "Do you want to come to Edinburgh?" And he was like, "Well, how would I get into the conference?" And I was like, "Well, I'll just ask them." So I emailed the dude again from Linux Foundation and was like, you give me like a free ticket. And then I gave him a load of stuff. So Matt's like, he's only 20, and he's he's a student, and he's got no money, and he's working on this project, and I think you should let him come along. And then again, the guy was just like, yeah, fine. And then he sent us another ticket, so we both went. And then we exhibited stuff on the Yocto Linux stand because we're using Yocto Linux, which is an embedded Linux distro, basically. We're using that, so we ran the Yocto Linux stand for a while. Anyway, more on that in a bit. But yeah, that's how we got to Edinburgh. And actually, a lot of people I spoke to, so getting back to the whole, like, why does it cost $800? A lot of the people I spoke to got in for free. Because if you emailed them and said, I'm working on a cool project, but I can't afford to come, they'd just go, yeah, fine, for like individuals. And they have hobbyist tickets, which anyone can get, which are like $200, which is way less. And often they'll just let people in free. So I was talking to some people about this at the event, and I was saying, actually, for all you can complain about this costs $800, not many people have paid $800, and certainly not many individuals have paid that because, as you said, their companies pay it, or they just apparently email Linux Foundation and go, could I come along for free? And they'll go, yeah, fine. I shouldn't tell everyone this, so if you all want to try that, then you can do. Give them a go. But it means that the venue was ridiculous. It was I say ridiculous, it was fantastic, but it was like, it must have cost them it was a massive conference center, and it must have, every room was taken and every floor, and I imagine it cost tens of thousands of pounds.
With the camp organizer eye, you're like, this was it.
Yeah, this is like, it was really expensive, and they had like, basically they had people like there serving food all the time. Not actual, like, sadly the food was a bit hit and miss. The food was made, they brought out cakes and little things, and
like
they had
canapes or something.
Yeah, so what happened was, well, funny enough, you say that they had free coffee. And they kept giving out free coffee, but it was a bit watery, and I wasn't really enjoying it that much. So I noticed that next to the free coffee stand was like what looked like a little Starbucks style coffee place. It was some other company. So I just went to them and went, "Can I have a coffee?" And I bought a coffee off them for like £2, whatever it was, and it was 10 times better. So I thought, is this like a scam where they give you the shit coffee and then you go, "Oh God, I need a decent coffee after that," and then you buy the coffee next door. So that became a thing. I'm a bit of a coffee snob, so I was there buying the coffee instead of getting the, I did still drink the free stuff. But yeah, so it was cool. So I went on the Sunday, I think it was, and stayed over. And then on the Monday morning, it all kicked off. Matt came up. He got a coach overnight, which was not a good idea, and arrived like after having no sleep at 8 in the morning on a coach. After being on the coach for like 12 hours or something. So I said to him, probably best not to do that. But anyway, it was cheap. Coaches are cheap anyway. And so we went and we walked around and bumped into loads of people that I knew. Actually, I bumped into some Linux Outlaws listeners, which was great. So Chris was there, Chris Finley, who might be listening. He works. He came to, I think, every OG camp pretty much. He lives in Edinburgh and he works for Edinburgh University. So hello to Chris if he's listening. And then saw some other people. I saw like Jono and Ack were there. Which was interesting. So I knew Jono was going to be there because he's like, Jono Bacon Consulting International or something now, whatever he does. And he was doing a talk, so I knew he'd be there. But I just randomly saw Ack, funnily enough, outside smoking as usual. And I was like, Ack! I shouted across like the road.
Was he wearing an orange suit?
He wasn't, no. But I just shouted, like randomly started shouting Ack. And he was like, stood talking to someone and he saw me and then we had a big manly hug and it was good. And he's like, fucking hell, Dan, what are you doing? He's not a Cockney, I don't know why I've got into that. But he was like, fucking hell, Dan, what are you doing here, mate? And I was like, anyway, so, that's not his voice. And so that was good. And I can't think who else, but I saw lots of other people that I'd kind of bumped into over the years. But it was so you've been to a lot of these events, so you'll know. It was more like, it wasn't like going to FOSDEM or something, because that's such a free kind of hippie-ish event. It was quite corporate. But it was good, and I'm trying to think. I didn't see that many talks because I spent a lot of time on the hallway track, as you do, talking to various people. I tell you, I did see it was fascinating, and I'll probably pronounce his name really badly, but I went to a talk by Frank Karlitzek, who I think it might be German. Who's the Nextcloud developer, and his talk.
He is German.
Yeah, his talk was absolutely fascinating. It's one of the best talks I saw. In fact, I'll say it was the best talk I saw, actually. But he did a talk about, his talk was titled, Why I Forked My Own Project and My Own Company. So, like, he hadn't really told that story before. Apparently, he had done it a little bit earlier, but nobody had seen the talk. He'd done it at another conference or something. So anyway, I went along and we sat there and watched and listened, and it was really fascinating. It was all about how the open core business model had basically messed up his company, messed up his project, and turned it into like a crazy situation where VC funders were telling them what features they could work on and what features they couldn't, and what features were allowed to be open source and what features had to be in the proprietary version and all that shit. So he was very scathing, actually. He was very honest and scathing about how that hadn't worked for them, and now Nextcloud is doing a lot better, and he claims making more money than OwnCloud did, because OwnCloud apparently never made any money. They just kind of lost money, I think. So he's basically, which is very interesting given the topic we're going to get on to later, he said that they've changed it. So they had a dual license, which is what the VC people insisted on for OwnCloud, which is where you get the open core bit. And then the community got pissed off because they were adding features that then they had to deny the pull requests because the business people were going, well, that's an enterprise feature and we're not having that in the community edition. So then all the developers, community people get pissed off and leave because they're like, well, if you're not going to let us actually do what we want, we're going to leave. And then he's now basically done it all. So it's all GPL v3, which is really interesting. Or GPL v2, I think, for some bits, which they couldn't change. But even the website, apparently, even their website is on GitHub or wherever.
Did he say where it's not AGPL?
Oh no, the website is AGPL. Sorry.
Okay.
But the I think actually maybe the whole thing is AGPL v3 because you're
it
right.
would
It's like
make
a web.
sense. It's a network service.
Oh, hang
right?
on, I'm gonna have to look this up now. He might listen. He might hear this and then go, "You've just lied about." Oh, you're looking it up. You look it up. You've totally misrepresented my project. No, he was a really nice guy actually.
No, AGPL says.
Yeah, AGPL.
On
So there we go.
Wikipedia. Yeah,
so he basically said that that's what they're doing now. And he's like, we're going to make our money with like a business, with a Red Hat style model where we'll do support and hosting. Well, they don't really do hosting. They do support and consultation. And I think they have partners who do hosting for it and stuff. But interestingly, I don't know if you'll know more about this. He claimed anyway, that some of the German, some of the big cities in Germany are looking at moving to Nextcloud instead of using any of the other solutions that are out there like Office 365 and other things. Well,
I mean that would make sense because with the GDPR, there is. I mean, you can do it like there's it's not called Privacy Shield anymore. There's like a way where you can have the data in the US. You just need a provider that it's kind of certified by the EU or whatever.
Yeah, it's all very controversial though, because people want to know exactly where their data is and have control over it and stuff, which they would get.
I know that. So Katie works for a university hospital here in Hamburg. It's one of the biggest hospitals in Germany. It's huge. It's like if you look on a map of Hamburg, you can see it because it's like as big as a city block. It's like a kilometer by a kilometer. Yeah, they have their own power plant. Like it's huge. And they went, they're called this Universitätskrankenhaus Eppendorf, UKE.
Yeah.
UKE.
I was just about to say that.
And everybody was using Dropbox, right?
Which is not secure at all.
I don't think
I'm going to go on the record and say I don't think it's secure. I don't think it's very secure. But
I think I couldn't. I haven't seen anything that would say it's insecure. It's definitely.
You mean apart from the
problem.
time that somebody was able to get access to everyone else's account? Okay, it wasn't recent, but it still makes me wonder about their engineering.
What cloud service hasn't that happened to? It wasn't OwnCloud. I think OwnCloud was owned.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a funny play on the name. I don't know. To be honest.
Well, I remember it because of that play on the name. I think.
Mm-hmm. It might well.
Anyway, but like this isn't about security. It's not the security problem that they were worried about. It's a privacy problem.
Yeah.
With the GDPR, they can't have that. So they deployed their own solution, which I don't think they wrote. They just branded it.
They look branded.
I actually meant to find out what software it is. It's called the UKE cloud. It's like the ukulele cloud.
Uke cloud. I like it. It might be. Yeah. It might be Nextcloud. I don't know. I mean, obviously he's going to claim that they're doing brilliantly, but he did show some figures that were quite interesting for their adoption in public sector and stuff and how they're getting on. But they seem to be doing pretty well. So basically, he was saying. People kept asking questions about like. Because OwnCloud's still going. Somebody bought it, and then
I think I just looked it up. By the way, I think their forum was hacked.
Okay, makes sense.
I think it wasn't OwnCloud itself, but yeah.
Yeah, OwnCloud was bought by somebody else, and he was saying that he really liked the name, and he couldn't use the name because the trademark was owned by, the company who bought it and all this stuff. So anyway, but it was quite interesting, and they seem to be getting fairly good adoption across like various different sectors, but. The interesting thing was, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, so you're going to use this Red Hat business model?" And then somebody stood up and asked a question and said, "Well, what's to stop somebody else just taking your product and then building their own business around it?" And he was like, and they said, "What if somebody else were to sell support and other things for your product?" And I said straight away to Matt, who was sat next to me, I said to him unfakeable Linux. And then I never thought he would actually say that, but then Frank on stage just went, "Well, if you go upstairs into the exhibition area and you walk across and look in the middle, there's a company called Oracle, and they did that." And then everyone went, "Oh." He's like, that's very, very honest. And he was like, they did that. And, so, yeah, someone could try and do that. But people are always going to come to the ones who actually made the software. And probably...
I was doing another podcast today, and we were talking about the Red Hat thing as well, and we were talking about like Red Hat, and we'll talk about that later a bit, but like the Oracle thing, right? And Red Hat thing is that they just have the know-how. They have the people, but still, I mean, there are people who use Oracle Linux, and for good reason.
Yeah.
Basically because some of them already use a lot of Oracle stuff.
Well, I was just going to say, if you've got an Oracle, I would imagine if you've got an Oracle, if you're a bit enterprise and you have a load of Oracle databases, and then Oracle come along and go, would you like us to also support your, Linux operating systems underneath it, and we'll swap it for our own? You'd just go, okay. So I can see why that would get adoption.
Also, there is like a reason, like it wasn't very likely before where you'd say, okay, I'm in a competitive environment with Red Hat, right? Or I'm doing something where I can't, like, you know what I mean? Like I can't really, so I can't use RHEL, so I rather use something from Oracle. I mean, I don't think that use case existed. But I think now there will be companies who say, well, we're in competition with IBM. Like,
so we're not going to use,
So we will use Oracle. Or so my thing is, I predicted, so for CT, we do a podcast. And every year at the end of the year, in the last episode, we do like predictions, like many podcasts do. And my prediction last year was that Canonical, Microsoft would buy Canonical. And I think this has become more, more likely.
Yeah, probably.
Because if they think they need a Linux distribution, that would be the obvious thing. Although, a colleague of mine said maybe SUSE is more likely because Microsoft already has.
So I spoke to some guys from SUSE while I was there. It's quite interesting, actually, because, I mean, much like everybody else, I don't pay much attention to them these days. I was like, oh, you guys still around? And they were like, yeah,
only Germans do, I think.
Yeah, so apparently, I talked to one of the guys there who was quite high up, and he was saying about they're currently being bought by another, I don't know, company, and they're going to be their own company again. And I was like, right, okay. But he sounded very positive, actually, about where they were going, as you expect him to. But then I spoke to some other people who were not involved with SUSE, who had no skin in the game, as they say, and they were like, oh yeah, we love their build service and we use it, and we actually like SUSE, and we were interested in SLES and other things. And I was like, really? Okay, fair enough. So they're still there, and they might get a bit of a boost from this, if anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, the interesting thing about the IBM Red Hat deal is that you can see how not to do it with Novell and SUSE. I mean, Novell pretty much fucked it up.
They did.
They put their own management style, tried to put that on SUSE, and that didn't work. And I mean, a lot of people who know people at SUSE or talk in the community is that they are actually recovering now and are doing better.
Yeah, they're apparently doing quite well. Yeah.
The whole Novell deal was horrible for them.
It wasn't good. And they lost a lot of their best people as well. They lost
people. It gutted the company a bit. And we'll talk about Red Hat later.
But they seem pretty positive anyway. But on the prediction front and the whole forking of things, well, not forking exactly, but the whole thing I was talking about with Frank and OwnCloud, I'm going to predict that by this time next year, Larry Ellison will have taken a copy of Nextcloud and branded it OriCloud, and they'll be selling OriCloud with Unbreakable Linux and whatever else. No, I don't know. They might not. Anyway, allegedly, if the lawyers are listening, that probably won't happen. Larry Cloud, yeah. Ellie Ellison? No, Ellie Cloud? No, it doesn't really work. Anyway, but that was cool. So there were a lot of one of the reasons I went was to see, well, to catch up with people, but also to see who was there from the kind of kernel community, because Linus was supposed to be there, and apparently he did turn up later in the week, but he wasn't there when I was there, or he wasn't at the event. He was in Edinburgh, but he wasn't at the event for whatever reason.
I mean, but they had a there was like a kernel meeting.
There's a kernel summit, a kernel developer
thing,
and it's only about 30 people who get to go. You have to be a kernel maintainer to get in the door. and there's only about 30 people who go.
Or if you write for LWN, I guess.
Well, some people are
always
both.
gets in.
So yeah, Jonathan Corbett, he is a kernel maintainer, isn't he? And he also created.
Is he?
He is. I think I'm sure he's a kernel developer. Yeah, and he was there. He was.
That's a bit of a problem if you do journalism in that field.
Yeah,
It's a bit of a.
I'm busy looking this up now. Jonathan Corbett. No, that's a different one. I'm getting a British TV food channel presenter. That's not him. He was there anyway, but he is a kernel developer.
Wrestler, the famous wrestler Jonathan Corbett.
Yeah, so LWN, here we go. Yeah, Jonathan Corbett. So let's have a look. Yeah, computing webzine, blah blah blah. But I think he started it while he was still.
That could be. I think he
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was one at some point. Or
No, he was. He definitely
in
was.
Yeah.
So anyway, so I did see Greg KH a couple of times. He did a. You can't really miss him.
It's hard not to see him, right?
It's hard not to see him. He was.
He's like the Big Show.
It's a bit like the Big Show, yeah. So Greg's a really nice guy, but I didn't really get to speak to him. But a friend of mine did, and everybody was hounding him basically because he gave a talk, which I didn't get to see because I was in a meeting. Would you believe about this about something else? And he did a talk about a kernel, basically his perspective or the kernel developers' perspective on Spectre and Meltdown, which was hugely popular apparently.
Interesting.
Yeah. So some friends of mine went to that and said it was really good.
Holy shit, the Big Show is still wrestling?
Yeah, I think he still is.
What the fuck? I just googled the Big Show and I got like his highlights from SmackDown yesterday.
Oh no, yeah, he's still around, yeah. I've got to say, I was quite shocked when Greg body slammed that Dell guy in that was a shock.
Ladder match.
Yeah, in a ladder match.
Actually, I think I need to watch that SmackDown match because I think it's a Halloween match.
Okay.
And there's pumpkins all around the ring.
Yeah.
And I think they're hitting each other over the head with pumpkins
yeah.
at some point. This looks great.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. So he was there.
I've been just listening to Wrestle Me. You can tell.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I've listened to that today as well. So he was there. He gave a talk, and apparently he was basically got inundated with people stopping him with questions afterwards, which is what you're going to get at that kind of event. But I'm trying to think, what other talks did I see? I saw a Microsoft guy talking about machine learning. He was actually really interesting, and I met as well. And I don't know his name. That's really bad because I couldn't see his name badge. But funnily enough, as I was outside having a smoke with Stuart Langridge of all people, he was chatting to someone else who in a lot of detail, shall we say, about the internal workings of Microsoft. And I was like, so this guy was there having a smoke as well. And it turned out he was the Microsoft guy who was there to do a talk. And he was really, really interesting and very kind of frank about stuff. And he said he'd left Microsoft in early 2000s anyway, because he was disillusioned with what they were doing and the way they were going, and he went off to work somewhere else, and he just came back like a year ago, and people were saying to him, what will happen if the current management leaves? And he actually on stage, I think he said this as well in front of quite a large crowd. The question was what happens if what's that guy's name? Samir or Samir? Anyway,
you mean the current CEO?
Yeah, I can't think of his name. It's really bad.
God.
I know he's Indian. He's got an Indian name. I think it's
Satya Nadella.
Sachin, that's it. Yeah. So if he were to, so that was it. That was the question. What happens when
Mr. Nutella?
Yeah. What happens when Sachin leaves and Steve Ballmer comes back? And then you're back to the whole Linux is a cancer thing.
Developers.
And basically the guy just essentially said that would be shit. And in front of everyone, so we were like, oh, fair enough, he's been pretty honest about that. And he basically was telling me all this interesting stuff, which I don't know, I'm not sure I should say too much of it, but yeah, it's not even a secret, but basically everybody was fighting everybody else inside Microsoft. Steve Ballmer had this thing about his college football bullshit thing where he'd be like, oh, so we must set up the Office team to fight to the death with the the Windows team, and they must fight to the death with someone else, and the Xbox team, and it's just pathetic really. But they've changed it all now, and the structure's all changed, and apparently Linux is very much at the heart of what they're doing now, so it makes sense. But I can believe that.
Yeah, this is why they're gonna buy Canonical.
They might, yeah. I'm trying to think of a good name for it now. I can't think of a Microsoft Ubuntu kind of name. Windows 2000 Ubuntu edition. I don't know.
XP,
yeah.
Ubuntu
XP.
ME.
Ubuntu ME, yeah. So that was interesting. But yeah, overall it was really
Ubuntu
interesting.
10.
Ubuntu 10, yeah. So
we have Windows 10 and we have Linux 10. You can choose.
Some of the interesting stuff was like going to obviously the events afterwards and like going around Edinburgh, which is amazing. Drinking whiskey with people in Edinburgh in bars. I ended up in a bar called Frankenstein's Bar.
Yeah, I listened to to Unattested.
So what I didn't say on that was that in that bar I was with Stuart Langridge and John O'Bacon.
So they were the guys who were really drunk.
They were quite drunk, yeah.
So like Jono and Ak, yes.
Allegedly. And then I went to a kebab shop over the road. I was with a load of other guys, and we were starving because there was no food at the event. We went to this big event that they'd arranged, the opening party thing, and there was basically no food and no drinks there, and we were like, this is shit. Happens. So Chris, who lives in Edinburgh, was like, let's go to this place called Frankenstein's, which was over the road. So we went in there, and then I was still starving because I hadn't anything to eat, and we were drinking as well. So I was like, I've got to sort this out. So I just went out of the place and over the road to a kebab shop and sat in there. So I'm sat in the kebab shop eating, and they're all texting me going, where have you gone? What's wrong? Where are you? And I'm like, I'm in the kebab shop. So then like a load of people came over from the pub to the kebab shop, and we all ate kebabs. And then once we were suitably fueled up, we went back into the bar again, which was good. But it was fun. Yeah, it was very fun kind of 3 days or so. I wish I'd got to see more talks, but no.
If people want the other side, you should listen to Tales of the Unattested.
Yeah, if you want to know about the Frankenstein's Bar, the video of it is in the show notes. Yeah, you can listen to Tales of the Unattested, which is at unattested.club or unattested.co.uk. I went a bit mad on the domain names. And
that's good. That's a good show as well. It's really good. I like it. It's fun.
So you can hear
a good team.
Thank you. Yeah, it is. It's good fun. So yeah, if you want to hear more about the drinking side of things and other things, then you can hear that there. So that was my experience. But yeah, very, very good fun. But considering what we're going to talk about next, I can tell you that there was no hint of this. Nobody I spoke to had any idea.
Nobody knew. I think I know some people who know people. I have, we know some people from LO time in Red Hat and stuff,
Yeah.
And as far as I can tell, nobody knew. They were all
IBM had
surprised.
a big presence, obviously, as you'd expect, at the event. And I spoke to some of the top IBM people, and there was never any discussion about this. Although maybe they were as if they were going to tell me, but I just didn't get the impression that anyone knew. It really didn't seem like...
I think only the very high, Jim Whitehurst and Ginny, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
What's her name? Ginny... Oh, God.
Ginny from the block.
Last name.
Don't be fooled by the reps that she's got.
Rometty. Ginny Rometty. So I heard the interesting total conjecture and rumor and stuff, right? But so one of the things I heard is that maybe the plan is that she will at some point step down.
Oh yeah.
And that Whitehurst is gonna
really
take over IBM, which would make sense because I think he's a great CEO.
He is a good CEO.
He's a nice guy. I can still remember when he interviewed him in front of the toilets.
Yeah, he was really nice.
That?
Really nice guy. I remember that. Yeah, I remember him well.
And he came from, I think, American Airlines, so it's not like
Delta, I think.
From some airline. So he
but he's a real Linux guy, as we discussed all those years ago.
Linux guy.
He was a Fedora fan, and he used to use Fedora and stuff before when he was younger, and he's real kind of geeky. But with the
IBM thing, he was at Delta. But he, what I meant is like he has real business chops, so he knows.
He does.
Running IBM is I think.
So at the moment, I mean, you'll know more about this being on the official journalist here, but I read quite a bit about what they're planning to do anyway. And so they're going to be Red Hat's going to be like a division within, which sounds very Novell SUSE, which is not great, but they're going to be a division within IBM, and Jim Whitehurst joins the board of IBM as a vice president or something.
But they're saying like a distinct business unit. So I was listening to the call they had. I was in the press call. And there was a C-level guy from Red Hat and one from IBM, and they were talking and answering questions. And so what they're saying is they want to keep Red Hat as it is, because they recognize that it has a special culture, and they were pretty clear that at first the IBM guy was going on about hybrid cloud, and this is all about hybrid cloud, right?
That's right. The hybrid cloud team.
How they want to own the hybrid cloud TM. But basically, then there were some questions from journalists, and the Red Hat guy was really proud about the fact that Red Hat has a very special company culture, and because there were questions like, are they going to change that? And they were saying no, and then they actually got the IBM guy to say, well, we bought this company because of the people, right? And we know we understand that we can't change the culture. Otherwise, the people, basically, he didn't say that, but the people. I mean, we know Red Hat guys. They're they're geeks. They're very special people. They not in the way
I know. I was just
special school, but in a they have a very particular skill set, but they're also
much like Liam Neeson.
Yes,
they have a very particular set of skills.
They're also sometimes a bit.
Oh, you could
quirky,
say Red Hat's been taken, couldn't you, really? Red Hat's kind of been taken. What they need is Liam Neeson to kind of come and get them back.
So they have, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, but, every Red Hat office around the world, when you come in, and I've seen this, being to Red Hat office, they have this quote. It's supposed to be a Gandhi quote, but it's actually not from Gandhi. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win. And the day afterwards, somebody had plastered. Then they win. Then they buy you over that. Yeah. And immediately, some Red Hat guy posted that on Twitter. And I mean, the mailing list fights within Red Hat are legendary. If you talk to people that have worked at Red Hat, the shitstorms that go on in the mailing lists, also quite often, when the company higher ups did something that the developers really didn't like, they would say so, right, in the mailing list, what kind of what bullshit is this? What are they doing? So very outspoken, which is part of their culture, which I think. Jim Whitehurst, I've seen him talk, and he talked about this as well. How is the special management style, and how that has influenced him when he came to Red Hat and stuff like that. So I think what IBM needs is obviously they need they need to get younger and go with the future, right? IBM seems a company that is very much stuck in the past.
They have
the
been,
mainframe, and they have tried, with Watson and this, and they embraced Linux, and with Watson they've tried.
They had OpenOffice, didn't they, for a while? Wasn't OpenOffice their thing?
Yeah, and it's it's their. Was that IBM?
I'm sure IBM owned
Sun.
No, Sun had OpenOffice for a while, but didn't IBM have an OpenOffice division or something that added loads of bits? Oh, was it Novell? They had not Novell. What am I talking about? Lotus. IBM had Lotus, didn't they?
Yeah, IBM had Lotus. Yeah, that's why I think.
You're right. Yeah.
Oh well.
Right. But I'm sure they did their own. I remember speaking years ago to some developers for IBM who were working exclusively on OpenOffice because they were customizing it for their customers, and they had quite a large division of people. But they were contributing some stuff back to. To the upstream, which is good. Yeah,
I'm just looking at Wikipedia. It's one of the successor projects, so Apache OpenOffice, and the designated successor of IBM Lotus Symphony.
There you go.
So I guess you're right. Yeah. But I think that that would make sense. If he took over, if he ran IBM, right, and then took over some of that management and company. Culture, and injected that into IBM. That would probably be good for IBM. Yeah, because IBM is legendary for the bureaucracy and the bullshit. If you talk to people that have worked at IBM, I know. Oh God, I think I know half a dozen people who at some point worked at IBM, and pretty much all of them they tell legendary IBM stories, and they stuff they say is wow, I was so glad when I got out of there.
I know a couple of people who've worked for IBM, and it's an interesting place to work.
Work for companies that got bought by IBM, right? And then they got
that's what happens, and then they end up on the IBM dime.
The blue washing is what people apparently call it. Yeah,
IBM as well. We're getting off. We're not off topic, but IBM have got a horrific history of in the because they've been going since like 1911 or something.
Yes.
And in their early days, they were a very
calculating
nasty
machines for the Nazis.
Yeah. So interesting thing, but I suspect, and this is a prediction, that if that's true, and then they change the culture, there's going to be a lot of existing, should we say, long-standing executives at IBM who are going to get a hell of a shock. Probably not in a bad way. Well, probably be good for them, as you said. But this, so I read a lot of the press releases about this, and I'm slightly worried about this. Jeannie Rometty's language. She just talks business bullshit all the time. It's like, most companies have only gone 20% along their cloud synergy journey, and we're going to maximize their profit. And you think, fuck off. I mean, I understand.
Well, it's IBM. What do you expect?
Yeah, but she says things like, here we go. Let's have a look through here. So she's put the acquisition with this acquisition. We are clearly. Sorry, this acquisition we are clearly doing for growth synergies, and this is not about cost synergies at all. I don't know what that shit means. And then she's got, the deal represents the culmination of IBM's existing partnership with Red Hat, and in our view, allows IBM to gain highly strategic assets to advance its hybrid cloud initiatives. And you're like, could you say anything real, or do you just want to talk bollocks all the time? So she talked a lot. I don't know. I mean, the business way she's speaking about it, I know that's what she's head of a huge corporation, so I suppose she's going to do that. But I'll be interested to see how Jim Whitehurst deals with that.
I think the only way this can go through well for Red Hat if they're actually a distinct business unit and if IBM does not touch them.
Well, the worry is they always say that, though, don't they? I didn't know Valve say they were keeping, SUSE as a separate thing and it would be fine, and then they fucked them over. So, I'd be a bit worried if I were a Red Hat person right now.
Well, yes, and I think Red Hat people, I mean, the big problem here, right, is that, Red Hat people have a special culture and they are very outspoken, and Red Hat was always proud of itself. When you talk to Red Hat people, they're... I mean, we know people that have Red Hat tattoos.
Yeah, that's a bit much.
But a lot of these people are very proud to work for Red Hat, and they're like, they're always with a special company. Like even when they were, it's a multi-billion-dollar company at the New York Stock Exchange, but big. They were still like, we're the underdog. We're the good guys. We have the Gandhi quote in our offices. We are. And now you're getting bought by a company that used to supply calculating machines to the Nazis.
Yeah, it's definitely a culture change, possibly. But it'd be interesting to see what happens. I can remember at the time that Oracle bought Sun. I can remember a lot of people making jokes out of Red Hat, going, "Oh, Sun have fucked over," and they've been bought by Oracle, and they thought that was really funny. So I'm wondering how many of those people think it's funny now, because
jokes on them now.
Yeah, you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Well, that's our business. I mean, what can you do? Red Hat is a publicly traded company.
They are.
Their stock was going down for months now, and I mean, let's mention IBM is paying a huge premium. I think the share was at 120.
It was at 114, and they're paying $190.
90. Well, it went up to 170 after the announcement.
Yeah, so that's not surprising.
If you had Red Hat stock, you might have done well there. But yeah, so and that's guaranteed price, right? So you get, if the deal goes through.
Oh, they fixed the price, yeah. But IBM did this through some other company as well. Obviously, always do in these big deals. But they had another company who did all the brokering for them. I've forgotten the name of them now. I'm just flicking through this. Here we go. This is weird. Lazard Limited, Lazard.
It sounds like
It looks like Lizard Limited. They offered financial advice for IBM alongside Goldman Sachs. Oh, for God's sake. JP Morgan Chase and all the others you can imagine.
All the big ones. So this looks like a Bond villain company, Lazard. Mr. Bond, I got you now.
Yeah.
Well, they were founded in 1848.
Wow.
Holy shit, in New Orleans.
Yeah, a lot of these really big companies, and I've noticed this with quite a few of the big banks, and you see it loads with the big banks like Wells Fargo and stuff. A lot of the richest companies in the world now are the ones that have been around so long that they've absorbed everything else.
IBM's 100 years old.
Yeah, IBM's over 100 years old, 107 they are now, which is it's pretty pretty mad. But yeah, I mean, Red Hat's only 93 they started, so I suppose they're relatively young compared to others. But I don't know, what was the outcome from the kind of the official, press calls and stuff? Do you think did you learn anything more from that?
No, not really. I mean, they said that they don't want to change it, but as you pointed out, you never know with these companies.
Well, they never come in and go, "We're going to fuck this right up."
Yeah,
come on, boys, let's get in there and rip it apart.
I mean, I was talking to a colleague today. We were talking about this, and I said, think back and tell me. So because I know lots of people when something like this happens, they go, "Oh, it's fine," it's going to be fine. And I said, think about it. When did you last hear of a company being bought by another company and that was good for the company being bought? Like,
yeah, you're right. I don't know. I don't follow.
Happen?
I'm sure. I don't know. Maybe it has happened at some point. I don't follow the stocks.
I mean, a good example from something I've just random geek stuff here. Something I've gotten into recently is Magic: The Gathering, which is this trading card game. You probably,
Yeah, we had a great discussion about it years ago. I didn't know what it was.
So I haven't. Did we? I can't. Wow.
We did, yeah. I went to some event and some guy was going on about Magic: The Gathering, and I said, "What the fuck's that anyway?" And you were like, "You don't know what Magic: The Gathering is," and then we discussed it. So now I know what it is. But yeah, I'm
definitely drinking too much. So I had played, as you probably know, then that until I don't know 98 or something.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much 20 years ago I started playing it. So now I discovered that there's an online game and I play that, and now I'm knee deep into Magic cards, right? I get right back into it. Mm-hmm. And so I've started to listen to a podcast which I can recommend. It's called Drive to Work. So the guy who designs Magic: The Gathering and has been at Wizards of the Coast, the company who does it for 17 years. Mark Rosewater has a podcast called Drive to Work, and he's cool. Great. So he's also known as Maro in the community. Yeah. So he's completely new to me. I didn't know who this guy was, but apparently everybody else knows about him. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so he has this podcast, and he talks about designing the game, right? And he recently is like 500 episodes of the podcast, and I'm like at because he's
from the start.
Yeah, I'm like at episode 40 or something. So in some episode he talks about so Wizards of the Coast got bought by Hasbro.
Yeah.
And that I think is an example of where they just left it.
Yeah.
Because Hasbro, being a huge toy company who also owns a lot of games, saw that this was a very different game from what they're selling. It's not like Monopoly or something like that. And they realized that there's a very special audience.
Yeah.
For that kind of game. And they said, well, you're doing that. You're really successful with whatever you're doing there. We'll just let you do it. And then if you lead, but the thing they've gotten from it is like resources, right?
Yeah.
Because then they had Hasbro behind them, and it's like, oh, you want a bigger box for your game? You want this? You want to print 10 times that?
Yeah.
No problem, we can do that for you. And that might be one of the things that IBM could do for.
They could do. And also IBM must have a lot of, I mean, obviously Red Hat have a lot of customers and they have a lot of
but IBM has a lot more.
IBM has a lot more. So now if IBM are going to go, hey, you want to get Red Hat and do this, and then Red Hat will have access to that as well. So actually on the subject of like things that have been bought that have worked out well for the company being bought, you've almost touched on it there, actually. So Hasbro, that's is an interesting example. But also, you could argue that Marvel have done really well out of being bought by Disney. I mean, Disney are buying everything now, but they bought Marvel, and then they basically built Marvel Studios, and that's become a huge thing. But Marvel were trying to do that already, but they couldn't get the money, and then they got bought by Disney, and suddenly the money wasn't a problem because it's Disney, and Disney were like, we'll send Mickey over with the money truck, and he was like, hey, where you want the money? And then that was fine, and then they built this massive cinematic success story out of it. So there are some examples.
Well, yes, you could say that, but I'm not in favor of more things getting bought by Disney.
You don't want Disney Linux.
Fucking Disney.
Disbuntu. There's bunting.
So if you talk about companies that are worse than IBM,
they are pretty bad.
God, Walt Disney was a fucking asshole.
Yeah, he was. And also, I find it quite amusing that he had himself cryogenically frozen, but there's not any in it. The way he was frozen was not in a way that he could ever be unfrozen. Yeah. So he thought he would be unfrozen at some point in the future, but the technology will exist at some point. But basically, from the way he was frozen, people are already saying who do cryogenics that's never going to be reversible. He's basically his body's fucked.
He's just an ice block now.
Although he might end up like Nixon on Futurama, like a head in a jar, eating fish food. Who knows? But
with Trump being there and everything going to shit, I think we'll have other problems than trying to thaw out Walt Disney in like 20 years.
Yeah. So it'd be interesting.
We'll be lucky if the planet's still there.
That's very true. This is really kind of fresh news, so we don't know what's going to happen, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds. Is all I would say, because it doesn't. I'm not convinced this is a great idea for Red Hat, but maybe it'll turn out okay.
Yeah, I don't think it is as well, but I think the question doesn't. There's just no question from Red Hat, right? Because from that
they don't
side,
have a choice. I mean,
somebody just turns up with a huge truck of money, and they're like, "Well, you're a publicly traded company, so we're gonna have."
We just buy a controlling interest.
It's just a matter of how do you want this to go?
Yeah. Do you want the hardware? Yeah. Have you ever watched? Oh no, you probably haven't. You should watch a show called Ray Donovan if you haven't seen it.
I think you've recommended that to me as well.
There's a really good bit. Anyway, he's like a fixer. Anyway, but the reason it links to this is there's a bit where he has to persuade some guy to do something or not do something anyway, and he basically has two things in his hand. He has a baseball bat and a brown bag. And the brown bag has got like money in it. And he goes, so there's two ways we can do this, the bag or the bat. Which would you prefer? Kind of that's a bit what Red Hat are in that situation. Do you want the bag or the bat? And they were like, we'll have the bag, please. Which is probably a sensible choice. I
need to watch that show. I remember that. Oh, God, that's a good actor as well.
Yeah. Liev Schreiber. Liev Schreiber apparently pronounces it. I don't know why. But there you go. So, yeah, he's very good. But, it's going to be interesting to see how it'll work. I'm interested to see what will happen for other companies now, as you said. So, Canonical... probably looking to get bought by somebody, it seems.
Well, I think what we've seen here is clearly that IBM has said hybrid cloud. You need to own a Linux, right?
Yeah,
and there's not that many Linuxes left. And
there isn't.
There was talk that both Google and Microsoft were in talks to buy Red Hat.
It's interesting that because Google, I mean, I don't know what they use on their servers. Maybe they do use RHEL, but I know they use a lot of. They have Ubuntu, don't they, for their desktops?
From what I have heard, they actually use RHEL, but they don't pay Red Hat.
I can believe that.
Have their own engineers. I think Amazon does pretty much the same thing as well. They just have their own people.
Yeah,
they're big enough to just.
Yeah, they're pretty big. So I'm surprised that, actually, a company the size of Amazon could have probably just swallowed up Red Hat, or
Oh yeah.
You could have had Amazon Linux.
But I don't think they need to. I think they're already so big. Amazon is the biggest thing in cloud.
And the big thing that I know you've probably spoken to people about as well from Red Hat is that they're all very relieved that it wasn't Oracle. Because Oracle, Oracle could have bought them and then made their unfakeable Linux into, just make it Red Hat, basically. And that would have been a lot worse for a
It could have been Microsoft. I don't think that would have been a good fit. As much as Microsoft is an open source company now, Microsoft completely does the thing where they take over a company. They don't leave the culture as it is.
Oh no.
Microsoft is completely. They have these batshit crazy ideas. But I can remember a few years ago. We had people from Microsoft actually talking to us about. They came to the offices and we were just talking about security and stuff, right? Microsoft press tour, whatever. And they were talking to us how great it is now. The new building they have in Germany, and they don't have desks anymore. So you just come in and you don't have a computer anyway. You just have a Surface, right? And you come in with your bag, and then you say, "Well, I'm here. I'm going to work in the office today. I'm not working from home." And then they just assign you a random desk space, and then you can put your stuff in a locker, right? And then you sit there with your tablet. And you don't have an office anymore. It's the best thing ever. And I'm like looking at the guy, right? It's like late in the afternoon. I've written stories all day. I look at the guys like, are you really like, are you trying to, what is this? Do we actually believe this bullshit? Like, that would be the worst thing ever. You don't have an office anymore. And he was like, "Oh, this is so great!" And I'm like, and the most amazing thing was these were the German Microsoft guys, right? I mean, that the American guys are batshit crazy. We know that, but usually the German Microsoft guys are just a bit more grounded. It's like I remember when Microsoft had this big conference, and they were going on about the future of Windows 10, right? And they were going on about how a future at work, how it would like, it was this Satya Nadella, this future, you know how they do these future presentations?
Yeah.
This is going to be work in 10 years. And it was basically, it tracked everything. It's like, there was this thing, oh yeah, so he's now working there, and now he's picking up a heavy tool, and that could be dangerous. And it was tracking all the workers all the time.
That doesn't sound good.
And they were like, this is the best idea ever. And you think like, yeah, people in Silicon Valley think that, but Germans watching this presentation right now, you know, they're just seeing swastikas superimposed over everything.
Well, or an Amazon logo, because they work like that.
So if we were talking like to the German Microsoft guys knew this, of course, you know. And they were like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. How are we going to tell the German press that this is a good idea?
Yeah.
But, you know, the American guys never talked. But this is the thing. This is kind of, Microsoft is crazy. They're like, oh, yeah, let's get rid of desks.
That's
what?
I've heard of other companies doing that. I mean, I'm not sure I like the idea, but I know other companies
dumb,
where
though.
like everybody basically works on a laptop, and then wherever they sit is their desk.
Working on it. I mean, yes, you can do that, and I mean, Red Hat does a lot of that stuff and working from home, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's been clearly shown. There's like tons of psychological studies, and like, either you work from home, but the point of having somebody come in a company and having a desk is that they have their own space, and that they feel, you know, it's a bit like feeling at home, right?
Yeah,
it's like you have your space, and you need to make your space.
I mean,
your own.
you've got to put your posters up and stuff, haven't you? I mean, where are you going to put your posters?
and open plan offices are like the devil already. But then, like, not having your own desk there either.
Having worked in a fairly large open plan office, I can say it's not ideal. Because then people just keep distracting you all the time. People come over just to talk to you, and you're trying to work, and you're like, "Well, did you want something?" And
now,
like, you know.
And now you have the thing: you can't even find anybody because nobody has their own desk space. It's like, you know, imagine you go in the office every day because you need to work there, because you need to talk to people. It's like, where's Dan today? I can't find it. Well, this computer says he's on floor 7 somewhere.
So one of the things they do, which, I mean, this is not groundbreaking now by any stretch of the imagination, but when I did work in one of those offices for the NHS, we had one of the first Cisco IP phone systems. And the big thing was that wherever you were, you logged into the phone, and then that was your phone. And then, so like, you know, if somebody rang your extension, it rang wherever you were. So they could find you that way. And they had software phones as well that you could log into on your laptop, and then your extension would be routed to, you know, wherever you were. But I don't know. These days, everybody has mobile devices anyway. So, I mean, if I couldn't find someone, I'd just ring their mobile or ping them, you know, a message and go, where are you?
Yes, you could do that. But you could also give them a desk. So you
could
know where they are.
So the big thing now, and I know a few people, we've talked about this in the past, I know a few people who do this, is the whole standing desk thing. I know a lot of people who work in various different offices and stuff, and they have standing desks now. Where you basically just have a counter that you lean on.
I can't do that because I'm doubly fucked. So I'm getting old, right? So my back's just my back. I have the worst job in the world.
Have you not got a lying desk where you lie down with like a screen above you?
I would need to walk around basically.
Oh, okay.
So my back's fucked. I have the worst job in the world, right?
I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at how angry your articles would be if you were like, you know, my fucking back is.
Well, they are that way pretty much. If it gets into the 8th hour of me working, it's just like it better don't cross my path.
Yeah. Could you just review this? It's shit.
Fuck this.
Yeah.
And these companies' servers get owned, and it serves them fucking right. They were idiots.
Yeah. That does happen.
So I have the back problem, right? So, but I can't use the standing desk because my knees are fucked as well. Ever since I was a teenager, I had sports, and I have problems with like.
What sports were
joints,
you doing? Wrestling,
hockey,
the big show.
Football, hockey.
Right. Okay.
I did some wrestling with friends. Like,
not with the big show, though.
Not with the big show. No.
Oh, Greg Cage.
Not as big.
But we
did like.
Greg came in and choked.
Oh, we did some stuff. When they were talking on Wrestle Me about how wrestling in school. I was remembering what we did like in school. And
we used to do that.
Oh my God, like we did dangerous shit.
We'd like jump off the top of a desk and clothesline somebody as they came in the room, but like really clothesline them.
I always wanted to try a pile driver. Just try this pile driver.
Yeah.
I actually, this must be, I think this was in primary school. And I did this, like, this wasn't like fun wrestling. This was like some guy who was pissing me off. And I just clotheslined him on the, like, and we were at a break outside, right? And the guy was standing there, and I just ran towards him. It's just like, whack.
Yeah, we used to do stuff like that. But the weird thing was, I mean, we've talked about this a little bit, but you'd watch them, doing stuff like Savage Elbow, Randy Savage, where he basically just jumps halfway across the ring and lands on somebody with their elbow. We'd do that at school, but we'd be like, the person on the floor would be going, right now, you jump up there and then do like Savage Elbow on me. And you'd be going, are you sure about this? And they'd go, yeah, do it. And then you'd basically like break their fucking ribs or something as you came in with the Savage Elbow. Yeah. So anyway, we've strayed off the topic there, but maybe IBM are going to do a Savage Elbow on Red Hat. Let's hope not. But yeah,
I hope this whole thing won't turn into the Montreal Screwjob.
Oh
yeah. Or what was the Raleigh Screwjob?
The Raleigh Screwjob. Yeah. Red Hat screwed Red Hat. We'll get like, the head of IBM. What's her name? Ginny Thingy will come out and go, Red Hat screwed Red Hat.
I'm putting this as the show title.
Yeah, that's quite good.
I'm still bitter about that, by the way.
What?
I was a diehard Bret Hart fan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he did definitely get screwed over. Anyway, so, it's going to be, as I said, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this. But I'm interested to see how Novell, does, and not Novell, Sousa does under new stewardship, and I don't know. As you're right, there's not a lot of options really. If you're in enterprise, you're probably going to be running on like either CentOS if you. Well, no, you wouldn't really run CentOS if you're in enterprise. You're probably running on, on either unfakeable Linux or Red Hat or something. That's what a lot of these clouds.
If in Germany, you might use SUSE, but
true. Well, I've been told. I mean, obviously, and this was not actually by a Novell guy. I keep saying Novell, not actually by a SUSE guy, by somebody else. That SLES is quite good. And they were like, oh, yeah, we use that on some of our production systems, and it's really good. And actually, it's kind of a Red Hat-based system anyway, because they have the RPM packages and other things.
Yeah, but don't tell the SUSE guys that.
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't. I can hear screams coming from Germany already. Yeah.
What did the Dan man say on the podcast?
Yeah. And fighters said, no, string on the teabag. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what they do. I think you might be right, actually, that Microsoft are really pushing in this direction. So if you think about it, like Apple, for example, are never going to get into Linux, are they? Let's be honest. So that's never going to happen. But they are a massive, like, more cash rich than any other company in the world. So that's not going to happen. So then you've got, like, would Google buy them? Probably not. Somebody like Ubuntu or whoever. Don't see that happening. So it's interesting now. This is a kind of a big thing because I reckon a few people would probably, as you said, the Google thing about the rumor about Google and others being in discussions with Red Hat to buy them, I would say probably got some basis in truth because everybody's been eyeing them for a while, kind of deciding.
And I'm not so sure Apple wouldn't do. I mean, then they're not in that market. But I mean, the only reason they don't use Linux is the license, right?
It's because of the GPL, but they can't change that, though. They can't.
No, but like, I see them doing a move. Yeah, it wouldn't be Linux. I think they would do
BSD.
A move. No, it's what Google's doing. I mean, Google's working on Fuchsia, whatever it's called. Which will basically, I think, just be Linux just under a.
Yeah. Interestingly, as well, not IBM, Apple do all their cloud stuff, and I bet you it doesn't run on, Mac OS Server or OS X Server or whatever. I bet you that runs on some form of Linux, or maybe some of it BSD. I don't know, but I would imagine if they've got a cloud solution, it's not surprising that they would have, some.
But I mean, it'll be like Google. Google will just. I mean, they're looking to replace Android with something that has a liberal.
What people don't realize is the Apple Cloud is all run by Steve Wozniak off a little hard drive that he keeps
off his watch,
off his hard drive that he keeps in a drawer. He keeps in a drawer in his desk next to his Segway.
Yeah. But I think I do see like a move to more permissive licenses. I think with everything going in the cloud, I mean,
permissive.
Have you seen? Okay, the other thing we might talk about. Is like I've forgotten which database that was. You know that license that Bradley was
not Postgres.
No, what
the whole MySQL MariaDB, MariaDB, whatever the fuck it's.
No, it wasn't MariaDB. They had this license which is basically like copyleft used against itself.
Oh right, wow.
God, I have to look this up.
I'm out of touch with that. I haven't seen that. That sounds bad.
You haven't seen that?
No. Copyleft used against itself. No.
Yeah, so let me just look up what the thing was called. Just give me a second. So I can put a Bradley's blog post in the show notes. But Mongo.
Oh, MongoDB. Yeah.
So they did a. So it's called the Server-Side Public License, the SSPL, and it pretty much looks like. So if you go to Bradley's blog, it's the last post.
MongoDB.
Basically, what it does, it's like the AGPL on steroids. Okay. So it has like another clause in there. That pretty much so when you have the AGPL, right? If you use the software over the network, if you distribute the software, you have to distribute the source code.
Yeah, you have to have a function to do that.
Yeah, but that's only for your program, right? So if I run an AGPL, so I could run AGPL software on a Microsoft. On a Windows server, right? And then if you use that, if I give that to you to use, I would have to give you the code of my program, but not of Windows.
No.
And so this license is more in the way of like, it's hard to say because this is like, this is license stuff, this is legal stuff. This won't come out one way or the other bit until it's proven in court. But people read it as if you will have to also provide the source code of the stack you're running it on.
Wow.
So it's like, if this is...
That is the AGPL on steroids, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so let's say if this was MongoDB, right? Then I'd have to give you the source code for MongoDB plus whatever like user land I'm running that on. And possibly like the kernel or whatever. So it's been so it's apparently so much. You have to give people so much code that people have been saying that you can't comply with this. Like, because especially if you run it in the cloud, like if you deploy Mongo in the cloud, you have no access. You might have no access. You might not know what your cloud provider's running that on, right?
Yeah.
He'll just give you a server, and you'll be running Linux on the server, but you don't know what that's running on. That could be running in a virtual machine, on a hypervisor.
Yeah.
So
I would imagine, and this is just my years of legal experience and so on have taught me that that don't exist, by the way, if anyone thinks I'm being serious, that this will be impossible to enforce. How the hell are they going to enforce that?
Well, the thing is that
you could say, is it running on a virtual machine? No.
Well,
how are they going to prove that?
Well, you don't have to. So what it is like you're running Mongo, right?
Yeah.
On this on this thing, and you're giving me the service, and I say, well, but my license. But my license says you have to give me this and this and this and this. So you're running the thing. You'll have to give me that. And obviously nobody will do that. But the theory is that MongoDB will do that and say you're obviously not complying with this license.
And then do what? They'll revoke your right to use MongoDB.
No, they'll sell you a proprietary license.
They're going to sell
you.
Shit,
they're going to say, well, but you're breaking our license here. But hey,
so you need to buy this.
You'll buy this support contract, and you'll get this special license where you can keep doing it. So that's the idea. That's the theory. I don't know if that's true.
So as with most of these things, somebody somewhere's seen a way to try and get more money off people and gone, maybe if we did this, we could get some money off them by extorting
it sounds
out of them.
Awfully like you're seeing what the AGPL and copyleft is doing, thinking, maybe we can make these license terms so onerous that nobody can comply with that.
Yeah.
And then we can sell them another license. But how the fuck should I know? I don't know. But it's like this is the battlefield now.
Yeah.
This is the problem with the cloud. Is we were talking about this today, and actually on a podcast I did for Heise, and a colleague said. Look, this is like we're in a moment with the cloud where basically what we're building is like the power grid. Mm-hmm. People don't realize this yet, but like everything will run on the cloud in like 10 years or 20 years. And basically these companies are now they're seeing that they have the license to print money. If you build the power grid, and then 20 years later everything needs power, and you own the power grid, you're golden. And this is what Amazon, Google, Microsoft, IBM, this is what they're doing. And this is why IBM wants Red Hat for their hybrid cloud, I guess.
Yeah, it does seem like it. I'm rapidly, here we go, getting to the register, which is where I read the story about IBM and Red Hat, which is interesting because it's got lots of quotes from Jeannie Rometty, where she basically also almost says things that I would say are parallel to that. She says, he says, scrolling down frantically. Here we go. So, she came out and said that basically most companies are only 20% along their journey to the cloud, and we can help them by bringing them the rest of the way, and there's business advantage to be gained in that for everyone, and basically all this shit. The acquisition of Red Hat is a game changer. It changes everything in the cloud market. IBM will become the world's #1 hybrid cloud provider, offering companies the only open cloud solution to unlock the full value of the cloud for their business needs. Now, I'm sorry, that just sounds like the sort of person who would, again, come up with the sort of... I mean, I'm getting personal now, so we have to be careful. But you know what I mean?
Ginny!
Yeah. So, fire up the jet. I'm going to go and see her. So, I don't know. It just sounds like, Red Hat are now joined a very different culture where, it's very much the old corporate model and not the new model of Red Hat. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But, it does sound like it's slightly worrying for all that sort of stuff. Can you
put that link in the running order?
I'll put it in there.
The show notes.
Copy. There we go.
Just
there you go. So
can
actually,
you just post
Jim Whitehurst's
in?
in here as well. Yeah, we'll do. So Jim Whitehurst's in here as well, saying, meanwhile, Red Hat CEO Jim Whitehurst offered, and this is his quote, "Joining forces with IBM will provide us with a greater level of scale, resources, and capabilities to accelerate the impact of open source as the basis for digital transformation." God, he doesn't take pauses. For digital transformation, and bring Red Hat to an even wider audience, all while providing our unique culture and unwavering commitment to open source innovation. That's quite a good statement, actually. So I like that.
He knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. I think I established that when I interviewed him outside a toilet in Dublin. He was not fazed by that at all. But here we go. So I'll put it in the GitLab thing now so people can read the link. It just happened that the first story I came across when I was looking into the Red Hat thing was from the register. And
Can you put that in, or is that creating a merge request?
I don't know. It didn't let me last time. I had to create a merge request. Let me see. Edit.
You should
live editing of it. Oh no, I can put it in. I can.
Okay, cool. Commit it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'll add it to the bottom of the thing here.
Isn't this geeky? This is very geeky.
Yeah, well, I've got to
Just
be honest. I thought I was a license geek until I saw, until you mentioned a new license that I didn't know anything about. This Mongo thing. So that's a good job that you told me that.
Well, you'll have fun reading up on that. That is, oh god.
I need to read Bradley's blog. I haven't read it. Here we go. So I've added it now. Register story. There you go. The sound of live typing. If that's geeky enough, that's not geeky enough for people. There you go.
And
so if I save that, or do I have to? No. So it says I have to commit the changes, so I can do that. And then it says the target branch, and then it says in merge request.
Okay.
So you're gonna have to merge it.
I'll merge it in. I don't know where that is. I'll give you rights. I'll figure that out.
I've put a comment on it, which is blah blah blah.
I'm still working with GitLab. I'm still finding my way into that. So.
I've requested to merge with the master branch.
This is like kernel development.
Yeah,
oh yes, look, I have a merge request now.
From Deadpool.
Right? Yeah,
I have Deadpool as my logo.
It's quite scary, actually. This is it's pressuring me a bit.
Yeah, it is a bit. And I also have a red lighter in my hand as well, so because I've gone all Deadpool now.
I merged it in.
Excellent. Okay, so there you go. So people have got the link. On that note, should we wrap it up? Do you think we've had an hour and a half? That's not bad.
Yeah. Well, it's a short show for Geek News Radio, but we're easing you into this. Also, normally we would now do a half an hour of feedback, but because
that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Well, it's. It's a bit different. We usually have less feedback. We talk more about it. It's like weird.
Okay.
Anyway,
cool.
But since I haven't released the last episode as we record this, because I'm backing up stuff here because I'm fucking busy at the moment. Yeah, so good. I'm just snowed under here, but I'll try to get this all out, and then we'll have a feedback again.
You need to fix my thing because I just realised there must be a bracket missing or something.
I know. I should have not merged this in.
You should have rejected it, and then I could have until
like
you
with a Linux.
I was going to say with a Linux, like,
this. At some point, we need to talk about that as well, like the whole
the code of conduct.
I talked with Dave a bit about that. Yeah, the whole you fucking idiot. Why?
Well, I can tell you very quickly that there was because there was basically I didn't see Linus. He did turn up at some point, but he wasn't around at the conference. And I suspect part of that was to do with he didn't want people just constantly asking him about that business. I don't know. But interestingly, Matt, who I was with, who was a real Linux fan, and so am I, obviously, but he was like, his eyes were open to this world where you can just go to a conference and see, Greg KH or somebody and go, oh my God, which is cool. But he was like looking for Linus, and he's like, I can't find Linus anywhere. I was like, I don't think he's here. So then later on, he Googled for something and found produced a video of Greg KH wearing the same shirt we'd seen him wearing that day, apparently. And it looked like it was in Edinburgh, just upstairs somewhere in another room we weren't privileged to, with Linus doing it. And two of them did an interview and a video interview. And he was like, look, he's here because there's a video of him upstairs. And I was like, okay, cool. So he's here, but we don't know where. So somewhere lurking around, he was there. But I think a lot of people. I didn't talk to anyone about the whole code of conduct thing, but the feeling seemed to be that he didn't really want to discuss it right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean,
So
cool. We have to take up the slack now. I have to reject merge request with "What are you doing, you fucking Scouser imbecile?"
Use the brackets. Idiot. Use the brackets.
Yeah. I fixed it now, by the way.
Oh,
yeah.
cool.
So this was really cool. I think if you're up for it, if you want to come on the show once in a while, I think this is good.
Can we term? Yeah, definitely. Yeah, but can we term it Emergency Outlaws? I think
Emergency Outlaws. Yes,
yeah. We'll just anytime there's an global emergency, I'll come on. And, and I'll be like, cool. So the situation in Haiti, Fab, we need to discuss it now.
By the way, Dave, I thought this was cute. Dave declined to be on the show, so he could just listen to the episode and feel like it's Linux Outlaws again.
Oh, really? Oh, shit, I didn't realize that. All right, that's very, that is very cute. Yeah, thanks. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe he sat there thinking, shit, I need to get back on there before they ruin the show. And they haven't mentioned Warhammer at all, and they haven't done this. And,
Oh yeah, we get so I suspect like the feedback for this will be like half of it will be, wow, Dan's back's like in Linux Outlaws. That's the best thing. We have to do that every time. The other part will be no Warhammer discussion. What the fuck's going on? Worst show ever.
You and Dave can do that. I'll hang up. You and Dave do the Warhammer.
Well,
discussion.
I mean, the idea of this show is that we'll just cycle through stuff. Have some people talk about Warhammer, and then on another week talk about some other stuff. So I think it works out well. I like that. I think this is good. And everybody listen to Tales of the Unattested.
Yeah, and Hollywood Outlaws as well.
Oh yes,
because our Outlaws brand, we've got something Outlaws. We've got like Coffee Outlaws. We haven't got Coffee Outlaws yet. That's the next one.
Not yet, but we're working on that.
Yeah. So listen
just
to
wait
those.
till I'm a freelancer and I have time.
Listen to those, and I don't know how you sign off. How do you normally sign off on this? You haven't done the whole boilerplate thing at the end.
Oh yeah. Oh, I have to do that. Yes. So if you want to tell us about the lack of Warhammer on the show, Dave usually does that this way. You can
He could email.
us.
He probably will email.
Yep, we have an email, feedback@sixgun.org. It creates an issue in GitLab, but you can also create issues directly. In show notes, I'm going to put a link to like a thread, and then you can comment there and shout at me and abuse me. We do not have a code of conduct.
Right.
You may use whatever language you want. If it goes into like legally actionable stuff, I'll probably have to delete it.
Okay.
Because of Germany and all that. Mm-hmm. Don't post swastikas.
Don't mention the tea bags, people. I mentioned it once, but I think I got away with it.
Don't. We also have a Discord. Oh, we're on Twitter at Geek News Radio. Dan's obviously also on Twitter.
Yep, at Method Dan.
Yep. I'm at Fabsh, Foxtrot Alpha Bravo Sierra Hotel. Right. And then we also have a Discord community. You can go there and talk to us directly, which is a lot of fun, but very freedom hating. But it's just so good. And then thanks to Bytemark for continuing to pay for the bandwidth for this shit.
Definitely. God bless the good ship Bytemark and all who sail in here.
Great. Yeah, so Dave usually signs off with Hack the Planet.
Oh, right, okay.
And since you're Dave, you'll have to do that now.
Okay. Hack the Planet.
You fucking idiots! What are you doing? This isn't a fucking pull request. What's this supposed to be? Fuck off!